Yo guys, Mike for Sim Racing 604, and welcome to part 2 of my look at the SimJack Pro pedals. These are a set of pedals that I bought off AliExpress for about $250 US. It was another $60-ish to get them here to Canada. So altogether, you're looking at just over $300, 300 US dollars or 300 euro for a set of what looks to be premium grade pedals. I already did a part 1 of this video series where I gave my sort of initial impressions, and overall these are quite good, but need some work in terms of the sort of tuning of them. And what I mean by that is the overall construction is good, all metal. You know, they feel very solid. If we flip them around here, you can see it has a lot of sort of premium features. It's got a damper on the accelerator here. Actually, all 3 pedals have a damper. It's got a 200 kilogram load cell at the back of the brake pedal, and then the progressive resistance clutch pedal. So a lot of features you would look for in a premium set of pedals, but again, not at a premium price. So 300 US dollars for all this is a pretty smoking deal. But again, when I did part 1 of this video, I told you guys that I'm not entirely happy with how these pedals feel. I come from the Heusinkveld Sprints, and I would say that it's a pretty sizable gap in terms of the overall feel of these SimJack Pro pedals versus the Heusinkveld Sprints. I think a lot of it comes down to what I would deem sort of fine tuning. Will I ever be able to get these up to the level of a Heusinkveld Sprint set? Don't know, but I know that I can make improvements and get these feeling a lot better than they currently do. So my intent with this video is to do some tuning. I'm going to try and use some stuff that I already have in my garage to make these improvements. Granted, not everybody's going to have that, so I will sort of keep a running tally of what you would need to spend to make these feel good. If I can make them feel good, that is. But some of the work I'm going to do is actually not going to cost anything. So I'll just tell you what I'm going to do for all 3 pedals. The first one with the accelerator just feels too heavy for me. It's difficult to demonstrate with my hands, but I think this gas shock is just adding too much resistance. I also have adjustability on the spring, so I might be able to just back that off and make it feel a bit easier. I don't know. So I'm going to do some tuning of the accelerator and try and make it feel a little bit softer. Hopefully by taking that damper out of there, which I guess aids in the return and helps keep it smooth. I hope if I remove that it doesn't become too, what would you say, loose feeling. I hope the damper isn't what keeps it kind of traveling smooth, but we'll see. We'll get that damper out of there and see how it feels. Second thing, actually I'll just flip it around here. We'll have a look at the clutch. So the clutch currently, oh, by the way, you can see there's a bit of play in this clutch, and if you look at these pedals, there's a tiny bit of side-to-side play here. Maybe I can get rid of that, I don't know, but that is one of the sort of quality differences I'm noticing between something like the Heusinkvelds and these SimJack Pros. But anyway, back to the clutch here. It just feels too light, interestingly, because the accelerator feels too heavy, but the clutch feels too light to me. So we do have different height adjustments here. Hopefully you guys can see that, different height adjustments on this upper spring here. Can we change the angle? Doesn't look like in any permanent manner, but anyway, I'll try and do some tuning here, see if I can get this feeling a little stiffer. And then of course the star of any pedal set is the brake. So the brake just has too much travel. You can see how much I can move that just with my hand, and you could imagine what my foot does to that. So this travels probably a full 2 inches. So I gotta find a way to stiffen that, and I think I'll just try and replace these that's interesting. Bit of play here on the spring. This is my first time looking at them, but anyway, I'm going to try and replace these with some elastomers that I've got around the garage. Hopefully I don't need to replace the spring, because I don't think I have anything in the garage to replace this spring, but we'll see what comes of it. And yeah, that's overall what I'm going to do. And then I'll, of course, get these back on the rig and see how they feel. So, yeah, that's the mission for today, is to make those improvements, changes, and see how good these feel after. My goal is to keep the cost down as much as possible, of course, and make these still a value-oriented set. But as of right now, I do need some level of tuning with outside parts. So we'll see what comes of that. So yeah, gonna fast forward here. All right, so before I begin driving, I just want to give you a rundown of what I have accomplished with these SimJack Pro pedals. And it's really only taken me about 20 minutes. I was actually surprised by how simple this was. So I'll get to these in a second, but yeah, we'll start with the clutch. So as you might recall from the first part of the video, this spring assembly here was pitched up at more of an angle, and that comes down to this bolt right here. Whoops. This bolt right here, hopefully you guys can see that. It was all the way at the bottom of this channel, and that of course in turn pitched this spring assembly up. Now you can just slide, well, you can back off the bolt and associated nut and just slide this up and down the channel. Now when I put it all the way to the top of the channel, you could not move this whatsoever. So what I did was I put it at about the midway point, but it's great to know that it was a very simple fix to increase the resistance. So it's just literally one bolt, pardon me, that you have to adjust to increase the resistance. So as of right now, I can barely move that with my hand, which I actually think is a good thing because it's progressive resistance, meaning that when I push this with my foot, it's going to initially be tough, but as I kind of push through that, it's going to become easier. And I also have this nut right here where I can back off the tension if I need to. So yeah, it looks like I have some options to tune the resistance without changing anything, which is fantastic. So I was very happy with how that went. Flipping it around to look at the accelerator pedal, I just straight up took that gas shock out. It was a bit tricky to get out. That was one of the more difficult things. It only took about 2 minutes all in all, but yeah, there was just 2 bolts in the front, 2 bolts at the rear. And yeah, just took that out, and now it travels much smoother. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if I've made it too light. I might have to find some compromise. Again, this has the adjustable nut here, which I can change the tension of that pedal. So I'll find something to my liking, I'm sure. And of course, lastly, we have the brake. And you will possibly, depending on how good my camera is, see some new elastomers in here. So I took my Fanatec elastomers, the ones that came with my CSL Elite V2 pedals, pardon me, and put 3 of the 85 kilogram elastomers in there. And it's like, you don't want to have to buy a set of pedals in order to get a set of pedals working, of course. So I did some research, and it turns out Amazon sells these, Etsy sells these. So these are M8 size. You have to have an M8 size hole in the middle to slide these on. And yeah, you can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Etsy. And yeah, there's really not much to them. There's going to be varying. You probably won't get the precision that Fanatec has with these, with the, I think it's 85 kilograms resistance. But you can find different elastomers. They're dirt cheap. They're about $13 Canadian. So let's call it 10 euro, 10 US dollars to get different resistance levels from those elastomers. So it's not as if it's going to be ultra expensive to source those elastomers. And now my brake pedal has a lot more resistance to it, so I think I'm going to be a lot happier with that. So again, this was all of about 20 minutes, and I'm actually really impressed with how things came out. The one I'm most worried about, honestly, actually, that feels really good. Now that I'm at this angle, pushing away from myself, that feels really good. So I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. Again, the tricky part for most people, I think, if you bought these pedals and were following this along, is going to be sourcing these elastomers, but they are out there, Etsy, Amazon, and I'm sure there's others as well. That was just the first couple of hits on Google that I found. So if you are going this way, just do your research, and I'm sure you can find some proper elastomers. But yeah, this is looking good so far, and yeah, I'm optimistic that this is going to feel really good. So very excited to get these back on the rig and test them out. So let's do that now. All right, so this feels like a good time to check out the tuning software. And again, this is not proprietary. As I mentioned in my first video, this is not proprietary. This is DI-View, and it's a very simple program to use, but I would have never figured it out, honestly, or thought to use DI-View if not for Sim Racing Corner. So shout out to Sim Racing Corner on YouTube, one of my favorite channels, and definitely helped me out with this. So, as you can see, I've got the 3 axes here for my SimJack pedals: accelerator, brake, clutch. It's a bit confusing. See if I can rearrange this order. No, I wish I hadn't done that. Anyway, we'll just go with it in the order it's in. So, first one is the accelerator, and because I've changed some parameters, I'm going to go ahead and calibrate these again. So the way we do this is to right click and show raw data, and then it's going to give us some values here. 9897 is with my foot completely off that accelerator, and if I press it as hard as I can, it's going to go to somewhere around 8744, 8808. Keeps going up. I'm going to call that 8700. You don't need to be precise, and what we use is actually a mid-range calculator. So again, 9897 seems to be off. I'm going to set it slightly higher than that. So if I go to my mid-range calculator here, minus, let's say 9800, comma, what was my max value? Call it 8000. Wait, was it negative 8000? No, positive 8000. Okay. So, comma 8000, and then I click calculate. The mid value is negative 900. What does this all mean? Well, when I go back, I can right click and I can choose calibration, and it was negative 9833 before. I'm going to change that to 9897. Is that what I said? Or 9800, I think I went with. Mid-range will be negative 900, and positive will be, what did I say, 8000. So that should give me a nice linear travel. And if you notice that you have to press it especially hard, hopefully you guys can see that, but that's all the way to pressed. And you can see there's a bit like, I might only be able to press that hard in game, and that is 7911. So I'm actually going to recalibrate this and put it at 7900. Hopefully that makes it a bit easier. Still not enough. Oopsies. Just double check my calibration here. 7700. Nope, 7700. So yeah, I'm definitely able to reach the max, but I might even go slightly higher than that, or slightly easier than that. Okay, there we go. Now it's no problem. I'm hitting that max every time. And again, foot off the pedal. Now, if you're like me and rest your foot on the pedal sometimes, you can see I'm getting a 9500 with my foot kind of resting on it, maybe 9300. So I can go negative 9300. And it's not really going to lose that much detail in the pedal travel, but it makes it so I can, as you can see, I'm resting my foot on it now, and it's still registering, not in the raw, but in the actual 0%. So I have to start pressing it before it actually moves, but I can rest my foot on there and keep it at 0. And then again, going all the way over. And then we just repeat that for the other pedals. So next is, and I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my clutch developed a squeak. It's not good. Gonna have to get some WD-40 on that, but again, show raw data. So right now is negative 12,000. It's not really going to be affected much by my foot resting on it because it's a very stiff pedal. I'll go minimum, and then what's the maximum? 4,700 positive. Yeah, you know what? 4,600 should be fine. And then, sorry, what are my values here? Negative 12,000, positive 4,600. Go back to my calculator. Sorry. What did I say? I always forget. Uh, 4,600. So my mid is negative 3,700. And you might not want that to be linear since it's the clutch, but for now I'll just make it perfectly linear. And there you go. So I have off with a slight rest of my foot on that clutch pedal. And then I press it all the way and I get 100%. So that is 2 of 3. And then you can imagine what we do for the brake. Now this one's going to be interesting. So let's view the raw data here. So negative 23,000. I'm going to go with negative 22.5 so that I can rest my foot. Actually, it's already pretty good at negative 22,300. And then all the way over. It's a lot harder to press now. So I'm going to say that is about the max. So negative, what was that? 9,700, negative, maybe 9,800. Okay. All right. So then negative 22,300, negative 9,800. Calculate negative 1,650. So yeah, I have to press really hard to get that to full, but I'm going to get 90% braking power with it, with me pressing pretty hard, but I can get it to 100 if I need to. So yeah, okay, so that is it. So my pedals are now calibrated and should be good to go. And yeah, that's the iView. All right, so finally, after many teases, let's go ahead and get in game. All right, guys, so we're back here in Assetto Corsa, driving the KTM Crossbow. And there's no there's no face cam today because I set up a pedal cam, but if there was, you would see a giant smile on my face. The reason being is I am so happy with how this turned out. I was down a bit on faith, shall we say, in terms of getting these ever feeling, as good as, a mid to high range set of pedals, at least in comparison to anything I own. And it was starting to look like I would just keep having to add parts and, would I ever get this feeling good? But you know what? They feel great right now. I have them feeling so good, and that is after just some sort of high-level mechanical tuning, so these could feel even better. And here's what I mean by that. I took the gas shock out of the accelerator pedal, and that travel is still very smooth, and the resistance is less now. It feels more like what I would expect an accelerator pedal to feel like. Not much in the way of resistance there at all, which is great. The clutch, I did have to do some more fine-tuning to the clutch in terms of that front bolt that changes the angle of the spring on the clutch. But where I have it now, which is about halfway up the channel, it feels really good, and I like it. And the brake, of course, I did a fair bit of tuning with that, and even had to take in some parts from other products, which is unfortunate. I wish it shipped with elastomers. I wish it shipped with other springs, but it doesn't. And I was able to source some, and like I said, I found some on Etsy and I found some on Amazon. If you find yourself in this situation, and what a difference! Brake feels great now. There's a lot of resistance to it. So more in line with what you would expect out of something with a 200 kilogram load cell. I do like my brake with more travel than some people might. So you'll see that pedal still has comparatively a lot of travel, but definitely not what it was before, and definitely that spongy feeling is gone. And yeah, these just feel so nice. So even though I'm getting smoked in this race, I think I set the AI too high for myself. But yeah, regardless, we're focusing on the pedals. Remember that. Don't make fun of my driving, please. But yeah, the pedals just feel really nice and well above where I thought I would end up with them. So yeah, simple fixes, and great to know that that is, you know, tunable mechanically. It's just, you know, you can use the included Allen key and do a bunch of the tuning that I did. So, you know, that was all free. That's great news. And then, yeah, again, we have those third-party elastomers, which should definitely be included in the box. But, you know, other than that, the tuning has been all using the available tuning options in the pedals themselves. So very cool. And I love the idea of customizable anything in the world of sim racing, because of course how I have these set up, if you tried them, you'd probably say, you know what, Mike, I like my clutch a little bit heavier, I like my clutch a little bit lighter, I don't like how you have the brake set up, I you know, need more resistance in the accelerator, whatever it is. But it's cool to know that these SimJack Pro pedals, you know, with just the turn of a few bolts, can add that level of customization. So yeah, very impressive. So my plan here is to do a proper review video, and I'll tell you the good, neutral, and bad. And gonna hopefully have that out sometime in August, but we'll see. But for right now, yeah, I'm just very impressed with how these things are feeling. So yeah, good news all around with these SimJack Pro pedals. Just some simple tuning made all the difference. All right, that's good enough. So thank you very much, and there will be more on these SimJack Pro pedals in the future.